Welcome everybody to the May 18th Environment Committee meeting. Welcome everybody. We have an agenda. We have enough people from our committee here, and it's great to see everybody. I guess we just lost Patty. No, we didn't. She's coming back. Okay, so I will share with you our agenda, which has a bunch of different items. Let me see if I can find it. Where are you? There it is. Okay, so everybody can see that. I'll just run down the items, and we'll see what we can get to. Approval of the minutes, solar panel, Zoom discussion, LED lights updates, bee update, no mow May, ban on invasive species. We got a lot of things. So we're just going to start going through them. They're not in any particular order of importance, but some of them I've added since I've sent them to you. So basically, I'd like to first start with just the approval of the March 9th minutes. So if I could have somebody to move to motion that and second that would be great. Please. You're on mute, Patty. I can't hear you. Go ahead again. You're still on mute.
Oh, I'm not mute. I move that we accept the minutes from March 9th.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ralph.
I should at least be committed enough to them to second the motion.
Yeah, since you wrote them. Okay, and all in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, excellent. So we're moving on. The first
before we move on,
yes.
Could you do me a big favor?
Yes, please.
Give me a deadline. When do you want these minutes?
I think can I say two weeks?
2 weeks? Okay,
yes.
2 weeks.
2 weeks is good. If I give it any more, then it's gonna disappear off your radar.
Yeah, I know.
So
you don't want to do what Amalia manages to do at the Equity and Inclusion Committee meeting, because at the end of the meeting she sends the minutes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
But that's too high a standard.
You need her on this committee then she can do that.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to give you some updates. Solar panel Zoom discussion. I think most of everyone was there. I thought it was extremely helpful. I got a lot of people contacting me directly with questions and people moving forward. So I thought it was a huge success as far as people sharing information and people feeling more and more comfortable that they are now ready to move forward with their own home projects. So kudos to us all for making that happen, and also for you guys out there like Ivar and Robin, who are two particular people that I remember speaking about their projects. I don't think you did, Yagosh. You weren't on the call, or were you on the call? I don't remember. But anyway, we had a lot of people to share their stories of putting solar panels on their homes and answering questions for a lot of other residents that were interested. So it's good. Bee update. Elizabeth Harris is hopefully getting her bees this weekend, and she will be installing them next week. So very excited about that. Wonderful. So let's see how that goes. And to that point, I have been asked by some committee members, I think it was Steve Circo, whether we would consider becoming a bee city, which is like a process of applying, and I really don't have personally the time to do that. So I was hoping one of our young, vibrant committee members here on the call would be interested in taking that on. It's not a big deal. It's just something that's a little bit of a nuisance of a process of having to just sort of fill out forms and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal. But do we have anyone on this call that would be interested in taking that on?
I can't do anything that's over the next couple of months because I won't be here.
Oh, okay.
So sorry.
We have an excuse that the bees haven't yet arrived, so it would be better to wait until
Yeah, we could wait.
In the fall, potentially, if nobody's done it, I could take it on.
Wonderful. That's fine. I'm not in a rush, so the bees are not in a rush. Thank you.
Well, while we're on bees, do you know if Elizabeth is going to think about a bee hotel as well as the beehives or not? There was discussion of that at council. I don't know whether
You mean for the native species, the native?
Right, yeah, for the native species.
Yeah, she does want to do that. So, I will remind her once she gets these bees in place. She said she's interested in doing that, but yes. So thanks for that reminder. And then LED lights, light updates. So I heard through the grapevine that there's still some discussion about the LED lights and what wattage we should have, whether they should be brighter or not brighter. And I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention that despite our recommendations, or maybe Robin, you can fill us in more than I know.
Yeah, right. So the lights have been moved, but are still on display. So the 100-watt one is at the top of Surrey as it intersects Cumberland, and the 150-watt one is on the Warwick-Dorset intersection. And I can't quite remember where the 70 and 50-watt ones are, but I think at least one of them is further along Dorset, 4800 block. And the idea is we're supposed to make our final decisions. A very small sample preferred the 50-watt bulbs, and council members tend to prefer the 70-watt bulbs. So we're waiting to see where they go for the streetlights. The 70-watt bulbs are a bit brighter than our current lights. And because LED lights also put more light down on the street than the lights we have in place now, they'll also spread much more light than the current lights. So the 70 watts do seem to be a good choice there. There's a little bit more glare with them, but we can get glare shields for them, particularly for in the house behind it. And that's about all.
So you're saying that basically you're considering upping the wattage because you feel like they're not projecting it, the lower wattage are not projecting sufficient light on the street?
Yeah.
And when you say that, do you mean that it's less than what's existing now? Or
it's not a JND above what's existing now, it's just noticeable difference above what's existing now. That's the problem. There are very serious dark patches on Dorset. One of it is a light out, that's part of it, but there are still serious dark patches on Dorset.
Right, but that could be alleviated if we added a light to that pole, or not.
Well, I mean, there's a light out and we can replace that light, yes, but adding lights is expensive, and we will add more lights once we've got the LED lights in and we see what's needed.
Right, but I mean, my question is, if there are certain spaces where we need a new light fixture, why do we need to up wattage everything on the whole neighborhood to accommodate those holes as opposed to just getting new fixtures? Does that make sense, or is that not related?
At least in the opinion of several council members, the lights that we have now throughout town are dim, even when they are all on and there's no particular gap. It is more noticeable on Dorset than on other streets, with the exception, of course, of the LED lights that are on Dorset at the moment on the far end. And that is why there's the feeling that we should have a somewhat brighter light.
Right. Well, we, just so that you know, that the recommendations that we made to you guys were like not based on sort of subjective thought processes, but they were based on just sort of learning about how other cities choose their lights. So we feel like I want to be careful that we just don't make subjective decisions based on sort of feeling, as opposed to like cities that have done a lot of research on this stuff. You know what I mean?
we did check with Montgomery County, in fact, and the county is using both 50-watt and 70-watt bulbs, and they are both recommended for regular streetlights as distinct from intersections.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody want to chime in here? Yeah, okay. Do we have any committee members here first? Before I let Kumar chime in. Okay. Kumar, please. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Barton. I guess one thing I'm wondering is, have the Environment Committee's recommendations on the brightness or wattage, as you want to, as some people refer to it, have they actually gone to the current council? Because there are at least 3 council members who were not on the council when you made your 2019 recommendation.
Well, that's a good question. My recollection is that this was, it was definitely a few years back. So I don't know offhand the answer to that question. So
yeah, and I think they should go to the council, because I've never seen any recommendation from you on LED streetlights in any council packet since I've started looking at council packets, which was like beginning of 2020. The other question I have is, Robin said several council members think the lights are too dim. I think 2 council members think that. Are there more than 2 who think that, Robin?
I would say there are at least 3.
Can you tell us which ones?
No. Confidentiality.
I think Shannon and Kabir want them brighter. Who's the third one?
Me.
Okay. So you're going against the recommendation of the Environment Committee?
Yes, I am. And that was after looking at the 50-watt bulbs, and they are still available, and you can look at them too. Yeah.
Okay, where's the 50-watt bulb? Do you know?
I'll get it for you. I might be able to get it for you during the meeting.
Yeah,
moved.
it'd be nice if the town government would tell the public where the lights have been located to, so the public can look.
I think he did that, didn't he?
No,
I didn't know that they
not
were
been released to the public.
I've seen it.
But
And
we
I
did know
hate
where they
to-
were. They were originally all on Cumberland. Little
Right.
Cumberland. So that's where they were there then, but now they've been moved. So I guess it would be helpful, Robin, if you could share that.
Yeah, I'll see if I'll send it to you when I get it. I'm looking.
And could you tell us which wattages are at which locations as well?
Right. I mean, as I mentioned, I know that where the 100-watt one is and the 150-watt one is now. I'm looking for the other ones. That's the issue. And I didn't. You got the 100-watt one is at the top of Surrey where it intersects Cumberland, and the 150-watt one is at Warwick and Dorset, that intersection.
And so do you mind my asking, which intersection light will the council be going with? Is that still up for discussion?
It still is up for discussion. There's some feeling for use. I mean, we don't need to have all 70-watt bulbs everywhere, and we don't need to have all 100-watt or 150-watt bulbs at all intersections. They can be a mix of them at different intersections.
Let me ask you a question. Is it possible to consider, since we're doing it in staunches of like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, that we start with the lower wattage ones, and then if we find out that it's just not projecting the amount of light, then we can move them to other areas and replace them with the 75s, or since it's just a bulb replacement thing on a cherry picker? Is that something that you would consider?
You could,
Do you understand my question? Like,
I do understand your question. I'm not sure thinking it through, it makes sense. I mean, in other words, that it could mean that we would have to replace some of the early bulbs to have equal lighting across the town, which I'm not sure that's a good idea. It's expensive. But it said no decisions have been made yet, and if you want to again send your recommendation to the council, you can do that.
Okay.
It's just that like one of the council members, I won't mention who it is, thinks the 150 watt bulb is ideal for intersections. I had a reaction to it that it was like a bright light and I needed shades to watch it.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure how the council is going to fall out on that, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, I
guess
guess
recommendations to the council, and we'll consider
I think it's worth our while to consider as a committee that we make a recommendation, just so that our point of view is. Does anyone have a point of view on this on the committee? I'd like to hear it. Ivar, I think you're on mute.
Yes, I'm not that familiar with this debate, but has the impact on insect life and wildlife in general been considered? Is that why we're thinking that 50 and 70 might be better than 150?
Correct.
Okay, so I would generally be in favor of insect life, and so would go with a lower wattage rather than a higher wattage, even if that does provide a bit more visibility. I mean, in this town, very few people are out after dark, is my experience. So I'm not sure it's really all that important to have 150 watts glare all night long.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ivar. Yogesh?
Yeah, what are we optimizing for? So like, I'm just a little bit confused as to the process. So this is a safety issue, I'm guessing. It's obviously there's an environmental component. There's lots of, so like if this committee is making recommendations, is it supposed to look at all these aspects, or are we just supposed to look at like the environmental aspect of all of this? And is there, I guess at the council level, they're looking at all these different things and figuring out what's the best possible way forward? It's just kind of like, it just feels like, well, this looks too bright to me, and this is not bright enough, and this is going to hurt the insects, and this is going to get my kid run over, and, all sorts of conversations. But like, what are we optimizing for? And what's our mandate in any of this?
It's a very good question. I like the question. I mean, I think in general, we are definitely focused on the environment. So but that's not necessarily to the exclusion of anything else. I mean, so I don't think it's, these are mutually exclusive items. I think it's all in.
Right. So would it make sense for us to say, like, we're not making a recommendation one way or the other, but from an environmental perspective, we suggest, whatever it is we suggest for the following reasons, right? That should factor into whatever the council decides to do.
Ralph, did you want to say something? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with Yogesh. We are the Environment Committee. We have our point of view, but it also sounds like, from what I'm hearing, the council members are just hit and miss. I like it this way. I like it this way. I like it this way. And since the council is going to make the decision in the long run, they need to get their act together, and perhaps they need to form a committee to study it and decide, put this here and put this here, have somebody from our committee on that. But we can't just have a council member coming, the council just saying, one person wants it brighter and one wants it dimmer. What good is that?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Robin, could you comment on why people have the positions that they do? Is it what we're saying, that it's all over the place and it's kind of personal preference and on a whim, or is there like, evidence-based discussions happening around what needs to happen for, optimizing for various things like security and, environment.
Well, the council has to react to what residents feel in the town generally, of course. And we've had multiple comments from the town that it's too dark on the sidewalks at night. Of course, it's more noticeable in winter and fall than it is in summer, but that it is too dark, and that makes it unsafe to walk. And protecting our residents has to be a priority for the council. So that certainly is bearing upon our decisions. The data that I've seen on insects also depend as much on the whiteness of the light as the brightness of the light, the kelvins, as opposed to wattage. And these will be 3,000 Kelvin, and the non-choice, because we can't do it, is 2,700 Kelvin, which might have been preferable. But as far as I know, the data are actually rather ambiguous on whether 3,000 Kelvin, 2,700 Kelvin are better. Certainly 4,000 Kelvin are a lot worse for insects. As I do not know data, I've looked at it on a 70 watt equivalent versus 50 watt equivalent for insects.
Right. So Robin, 1 second, Ralph. So two things. First of all, there was a group of people that voiced the lower wattage, and I'm sure there were some people that also said it's not bright enough, but I can't imagine that the group of people that voiced concerns about it being bright enough is a larger group than the people that responded about using lower wattage. And I say that because I do walk a lot at night with my wife around like 9-10 p.m. and I see who's on. We go around the whole neighborhood, and there's Lucy is out there every night. She typically has a headlight on her head to give her illumination, so she's fine and has never complained to me about that. But there's very few people
Let's
out
think
there.
about what that means, that the resident needs a headlight to see in a town that has street lamps and street lights.
Well, I mean,
No.
I think it doesn't necessarily, Patty?
Well, she has a headlight because we need to find our dog's poop. So that's a different thing.
Oh, well, maybe she's using it
I
for
mean-
that. I mean, I don't see her always having it on, but I notice that occasionally she has it. Go ahead, Patty.
No, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I walk every night as well. And there are some places that are dark, but I am much more bothered by places, particularly my backyard, that's too bright. And I know that if I had a window that looked out on a street light that was very bright, I'd have to have blackout shades. And I think that's really going to be a problem for people, in the area if we make the wrong decision here. It's bad for the insects, it's bad for birds, it's bad, there's so many birds that are migrating.
And one of the beauties of going out at night for a walk is that it is actually dark outside. It's not bright. I don't want it to be. I personally don't want all the lights to be illuminating, 50% more than it is. I mean, it's very sufficient. And I don't, I've been out to that neighborhood, Washington, what is it called? It's like much darker. Washington Grove. They have very little illumination. So, I mean, I think right now the illumination I don't think it's such a terrible thing to say, why not have a headlamp? I don't think that speaks poorly about our neighborhood. I think that, there's many neighborhoods out there and all over the country that, have lower illumination, whatever. That's just my opinion.
But I mean, by all means, put environment committee recommendations to the council, put them through before our next meeting, which is in June, because we're going to make a decision in June.
Okay, so let's
get your points across.
Thank you.
But I mean, what I'm saying though is that we are hearing from a lot of residents who say that it is too dark in town.
And can I ask just approximate the number? Are we talking like 5, 10, or 100, or what are we talking about?
I couldn't say. It's a significant number of residents. I mean, that's
10
clear.
people.
There are
probably.
areas that are too dark. I mean, there's
I'm
no
just
doubt.
curious how many, because how many people did that survey about the wattage? Do you know that offhand, Robin?
It was a very small sample. It was like a total of 30 odd people.
30. Could you let me know just how many people have complained about it not being bright enough? I'd really.
I can't give you the exact numbers. I mean, I honestly can't, because some of them are by email, some of them are by
Well,
talking.
Robin, I'm
Just
sorry to
an
interrupt.
approximate. 1 second, Kumar.
Okay.
Just an approximate, whether it's like 50 or 10 or something like that would be
It's
just
nearer 50 than 10, but as I said, I don't have a good feeling for it.
okay. Ralph, go ahead, please.
Just a question. People might be walking at 9, 10 o'clock, but they're not walking at 2 and 3 in the morning. Is it possible for the lights to be turned down at some point in the night?
I've talked to Petco about this. There are a set of enhancements to LED lights that do, among them are dimming the lights at night. But Petco so far has not bought into these yet. It's in their plans in the future, so coming hopefully not too far away from now.
Okay. Kumar, one last comment, and I'd like to sort of pull this to a conclusion.
Okay, thanks, real quickly. So first of all, I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee. I've received no complaints. I've received basically 2 complaints from people saying it's too dark. Robin, I'd like to get those emails that you're getting so I can understand what the residents are feeling about this. I have been asking for weeks, months even, for information from the council, from the town office about this LED project, and I've received very little. The other thing is, you're talking about Dorset. If Dorset's a special case, why can't we just put brighter lights on Dorset?
That's one of the options, actually, that we do put 70
Okay.
equivalents on Dorset and not on the other streets.
So, okay, so one of the things that concerns me about this process from the beginning, it's very ad hoc. There needs to be, specific recommendations about what lights go where, rather than council members making decisions based on personal preferences. And I wouldn't want the town to do a one size fits all. We'll put all the bright lights everywhere just because it's dim on Dorset Avenue. And then finally, as the chair of the Public Safety Committee, I'm telling you, there's nothing inconsistent about protecting the environment and having adequate lighting. And one of the things the Public Safety Committee told the council is that lights that are too bright and that produce too much glare can actually impede your view of a fleeing criminal or, some other type of situation. I'm deeply concerned about the way this has been handled, and I would actually like to see something along the lines of what Ralph recommended, which is actually what Tacoma Park did as well. Because if you go on their website, you'll see they tailored it to specific streets, specific wattages for specific streets, and have a more process-based way of deciding where these lights are going to go. And I think I agree with Barton. I think there are just as many people who are concerned about too bright lights rather than too dim lights. And just because you're receiving complaints from residents about current lighting doesn't mean that many residents aren't satisfied with the current lighting. They're just not complaining about it because they think it's fine. So I think the council should be careful about basing decisions based on, a handful of complaints.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as the chair of the Public Safety Committee, I'd like to receive those complaints.
I'll see what I can find in my email. I said I'll look, and again, they're not all emails. Sometimes it's voiced complaints, but again, get your comments to the council before the June meeting is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I guess
there'll be volume then.
Thank you, Kumar and Robin. Committee members, do you think that we should motion something as a recommendation to the town council to just hear our strong voices about this matter? Yagosh, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? So if it seems like we don't have data on people wanting it to be brighter, from an environmental perspective, it makes sense to not have them super bright for the reasons that we all discussed. Is there an evidence-based position that we can take as a environmental committee that in order to protect both, the wildlife as well as, our experience of Somerset in nature, we're recommending kind of, lower lumen lights?
Well, we have, my recollection is we've already recommended them to use the council to use lower lumen, lower wattage lights. We've already done that because, I mean, in a perfect world, if there was no lights in our town, then our ecology would be more normal, more natural. So go ahead.
Yeah, so if we've done that, then what are we recommend? Is there anything left to recommend?
Well, it appears that that over the years that our recommendation has sort of lost its voice. So I suggest that we might consider reactivating our voice about this matter at the critical, 11th hour juncture.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the committee, do you want to, make another recommendation? Patty says yes. Okay. Who would like to take a go at the motion? Yagosh?
I don't know what the motion would be. Are we happy with what was submitted years ago? Is it just a matter of resubmitting that, or do we have to rewrite it?
I think we could just basically say something to the extent that we highly recommend a lower wattage bulb that is in line with the existing lighting that is existing in our town, and that if there are specific areas of concern, dark areas that need new light fixtures, then that's something that the town should consider. And also, if there are particular intersections, perhaps on Dorset, that you really feel that for safety reasons it's important to consider a higher wattage, then that's understandable. But in general, the light in this town is of a quality of wattage that we would like to continue. Is sort of my perspective. I mean, I think that Kumar makes a very good mention of there was no survey that says, do you like, the existing quality of light of the town? There was people that complained, but there was no actual survey that, and as we know, people, who are against things usually are the ones that speak the loudest. So I don't know whether I answered your question, Yagosh.
Yeah, I think so. I as long as somebody knows what we're saying to the council, it's good. I mean, I agree that we should refresh whatever was sent and whatever the position is before they make their decision.
Okay. Do you want to give it a go at it, or does someone like does Ralph or Patty or Ivar, do you want to sort of make a motion? Ralph, you're usually good at making motions. You can. Why don't you give it a go?
Type this whole thing out.
Synthesizing this conversation.
We highly recommend that the Environment Committee feels that in general, the present amount of light on most of our streets is adequate. We highly recommend that larger bulbs not be used unless there is a safety reason, and that if we I want to say fail, but I don't like the word. If we fail to get it right, we should err on the side of less light, giving us which is better for wildlife, for insects, and in line with our identity as tree cities and a place where nature can thrive. Oh God, we don't want any of those words, do we?
That's pretty good, Ralph.
Really?
Okay, I mean, we'll revise it when you write it up, and we'll write it up together, and we can disseminate it to the committee members to.
Yeah.
So, can I have a second of that motion from somebody?
I second.
Thank you, Yagosh. Ivar, and now all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
And if we can just put a caveat in whatever you're saying, that we defer to the security, what is it, the security committee, the thing that Kumar heads, in terms of what's appropriate from a security standpoint.
Yeah, for any security questions.
Well, there's a. I don't know if you're going to be able to get any recommendations out of us, frankly, but if you give me your recommendation, I'll take it to our committee and see if they'll second it. Because I support what you're saying.
Right.
I mean, I personally support that.
All
And
right. Okay,
Does
thank
your
you,
committee
everybody.
also do traffic, or is that different?
All right. I think we'd like to move on. Robin, thank you for sharing, and thank you for considering our potential recommendation in advance. I'm asking you I appreciate your consideration of our recommendation in advance. Okay, so couple things. Steve Serco asked me about like no mow May, which is this sort of thing started in the UK where people don't mow their lawns in May as a way to reduce the amount of emissions. I'm a little bit personally lukewarm about the idea. I mean, I like the idea, but this is like something that's been going on for decades. It's sort of like a fun sort of way to just sort of get people to have more awareness, but I feel like it hasn't really had much traction over.
Could I point out a technical difference, being that I've lived both in Britain and the United States, and I will tell you that, and in the Washington area, I'll tell you the grass grows faster in May here than it does in Britain.
Okay, yeah, my grass grows fast. So, yeah, I mean, I have personally been cutting my grass every other week for the last bunch of years, and doing that basically reduces emissions by half immediately. And my grass is much healthier than it ever has been, because, the longer your grass is, a little bit longer, the more vibrant it is, because it has more photosynthesis opportunities. Like, when the greens on a golf course, they're always struggling to keep it alive because it has very little photosynthesis opportunity. So to that point, I actually wrote an article this month which was basically environmental action bingo game, which has a bingo board and it has all these different things that you can do as a family to make your family and home more sustainable. And one of the items is like mow every other week. So, and the winner of this bingo, whoever has either more bingo rows that are completed out of the 24 environmental actions that I have on it, and I can actually show it to you, or has just who has done the most environmental actions in their home, the top 10 finishers are going to get like a free jar of honey from Somerset honey that we're going to eventually be producing. So I thought that was another way of, connecting our neighborhood to the bees. So that's sort of my response to Steve, but I don't know whether you have any other feelings about that.
I'd like to suggest, since the minutes won't even be done by the end of May and nobody's going to see them,
Yeah, it'd be for
it's
the
a
next
little
year.
late to be talking about what people should do in May.
Yeah.
So maybe next year we talk about it in March and decide whether we really want to say something. I tried it last year and it was just too much. I ended up with a real problem in June.
Yeah.
So, I like the idea of everybody mowing less all year long.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, mowing every other week is one way of doing it. But that's just my idea. This is the bingo board. I just wanted to show it to you, and you can see you can take a look at all the items that I put in there. So this is my way of trying to get people to be aware of all the things that they can be doing and how, and it's just sort of fun. So
I'm glad you didn't put cloth diapers in there.
yeah, that's a big ask.
Right.
Big
I get
ask for Robin, poor Robin over there.
Well, I'm a grandparent these
I
days.
know.
Can you still
wait a
get
minute.
fined? Can you still get fined for not cutting your grass? I remember I didn't cut my grass for like 3 weeks or something, and got a notice from the town that if I don't cut it, I'm going to get fined.
Oh, I'm not aware of that. Robin?
Um, it's unlikely to happen. Let me put it that way. I think there probably is still a code in there that says something along those lines. Yes.
Okay, Patty?
Some of us can't have solar panels.
Yeah.
Not fair.
Not fair. I'm one of those people. I got a gigantic
I know, but if we join community solar, it
You
seems
can
like
put
there
in-
should be solar
Put an
panels.
asterisk in there saying join community solar as well, so that
I should have thought that through. Yeah. Oops. Okay.
It's okay.
Next game we'll play it. Okay. So and now next item is we're already getting close to the top of the hour, so we'll just go as far as we go. Ban the planting of invasive species in our town. So I'll just say from my personal perspective, my neighbors, both to my left and right and on the backyard side, so 6 neighbors altogether, we've been battling this invasive bamboo for decades, and it is a major issue. It is very aggressive, and I've put in a big black in-ground shield to stop it, but they sneak around the side, and I had to pour concrete, and they go on. I have bamboo now coming from my next door neighbor, coming underneath 4 feet of concrete, and then going into the foundations of my garage and coming up through the wall now, which only way I can stop that is, spraying chemical on it, because I have no other way of getting to it. Anyway, so I wanted to get the committee's feeling about doing that. Now, just to tell you, invasive species are different from non-native species. Like a crepe myrtle is like from China, but that's not invasive. It will live. It will not support our ecology, but it also won't take it over like ivy will and bamboo. But go ahead if anyone wants to speak up. Yagosh.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good question, because there's a lot of things that are, bamboo is like super clear, right? It's easy to, but there's things like burning bush, for example, for whatever reason, people like it because it turns red for a week. But that thing is so invasive. It's unbelievable, and my neighbor has a whole wall of it, and I just can't get her to want to consider other things. So where are we drawing the line in terms of what we call invasive and what not? There's lots of types of barberry are very invasive. We have barberry, but we got the seedless kind, so they can't spread, and it's not invasive at all. But there's just so many different. There's a big spectrum of invasiveness and how invasive it is, and how do you draw the line? And are we going to have like an invasive plant police? It just. I'm all about this. I really have a problem with invasive plants as well, but I don't understand the enforcement and how we draw the line for what we are counting and what we're
okay. Not. Patty, do you want to speak a little bit about invasive species to Yogesh's questions, perhaps?
Sure. I'm a certified weed warrior through the county, and invasive species are defined, and there's a list. We've tried to do this before through the Parks and Natural Resource Committee and hit resistance. You probably can speak to it better than I can, Robin, but certainly bamboo is such a horrific one. I battle it myself with the neighbor.
But there's resistance even to bamboo, and that it comes from the bottom of Essex Avenue because of it. The bamboo there serves as a screen to protect them from the Falls Parkway, and they just don't see removing it as an option.
Right.
I even asked Doug Tallaming when he was here about that issue, and he said there are fast-growing trees that you can plant,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it would still be a very tough sell to those individuals, a ban on bamboo.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm suggesting is not removal of existing invasive species. I'm sort of banning the planting of invasive species, of new plantings.
Well, it's really a countywide problem. I don't know, ivy is certainly still for sale. I don't think they sell that bamboo, certainly not at American Plant Food. If it's not for sale, that's probably the best way to get it not to be planted.
Well, okay, so you're feeling that us
It's
as
a
a
hard
town
sell.
banning it is not really
It's
worthwhile.
a hard sell. It's a really hard sell
To whom?
to the council, to the town.
Yeah, I mean, English ivy, it's my personal bugaboo because my neighbor more or less has an ivy tree behind me and it shoots off into my yard.
Ivy tree or ivy vines on a tree?
Well, it's basically ivy vines have completely covered the tree such that they shoot off seeds.
Yeah, they get to the top and they blossom and then they shoot off seeds.
And one of the neighbors on the other side also has a lot of ivy there, and so I'm forever pulling it out of my yard. But some people just see it as perfect ground cover.
So what's your concern as a council member of us bringing forward this recommendation? Seems pretty straightforward.
It's very hard to implement, and it's very hard to get agreement on. I mean, apart from the folks at bottom of Essex who are ferocious about their bamboo, the number of people who use English ivy as ground cover in the town is substantial. And we can educate them more. We can do that, but banning is a tough one.
And because it puts a lot of onus on the town to like enforce it, and that we have limited resources, blah blah blah.
Limited resources, and it is what you're telling some people is that they've got to completely rethink their yard, take out all the ivy from it.
Well, we're not saying get rid of it. We're saying
I think get rid of it, Robin. You heard me before.
I suppose.
We're just talking about the planting of new invasive species.
Yeah.
There's a difference. So we're not asking the people at the bottom of Essex to
You
remove
could never
that.
plant English ivy in the future, right?
We're doing. I mean, this is like a really important.
No, I'm bringing it out. I'm saying that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, the entire country is struggling in so many ways. Like the Great Lakes have all these invasive fish. It's a major issue. The Everglades have all these invasive snakes, the anacondas down there, because people take their pets. They became, I mean, this is like a major issue. This is not like a little issue. This is not like, hey, let's think of something to do. This is like a major. So, I mean, this is like an opportunity, even if we can't stop people from putting in ivy, they do it in the nighttime and no one can see that they're doing it. We're making a statement that says, you're breaking the law here. And the reason why we passed this law is because we're really concerned about the safety of our planet. So it's a statement as much as it is as like an actual enforcement mechanism.
Well, I mean, go by all means, go ahead and develop a recommendation if the committee feels that way, and see how it flies. I am absolutely in favor of eliminating English ivy and bamboo myself. I am. I'm just trying to read my fellow council members, that's all.
Okay. Any committee member comments here?
I do.
Ralph.
I have spent years literally cutting down bamboo and pulling out ivy. It's a never-ending thing, and it'll last longer than I do.
Agreed.
I wish it had never happened, but it's there. And meanwhile, there are still people planting it, and people who really, my cousin, wants bamboo between his house and River Road.
Mhm.
Um,
He
I
probably
think,
doesn't know. He probably doesn't know it's invasive.
well, yeah, of course he does.
He
He
does.
me cutting it out all the time. He lives next door.
All right.
But it's. I think we should make a very strong recommendation against people, because there are people who don't know it's invasive. But I worry that our committee becomes the committee that bans things. We've banned the gas this and blowers and everything else. We're talking about fireplaces. We're talking about everything. And
Mhm.
if we are to be taken seriously, I think we need to have it in our heart and show that. But if we try to ban everything we don't like, I think there's a point of diminishing returns.
Okay. Anybody have a comment in response to that, or in addition on the committee?
I agree completely. It would be great to make a statement saying that the environmental committee, after doing research and analysis and so forth, this is really damaging to the environment, and here's what's the implications of it. And we strongly recommend people just be more conscious of it and think about not planting these things, and give people resources as to, like, if you like this but it's invasive, like, here are a couple of alternatives to this that also look nice and you can plant and they're not invasive. Just give people tools to be able to get done what they want to get done, and that might be a nicer way to do it.
So Hardy, you're saying that don't recommend banning it, or could you re-summarize what you just said? I'm sorry.
I think we should tell them, I think we should say we recommend, I don't think we should ban anything. I agree with the previous comment. I think we should say that we recommend strongly against planting invasive stuff. And here's the reasons why it's a bad idea, and put all the justification there. And then say, I would love resources, right? When I was doing our garden, I didn't know, I liked a lot of stuff. And then like bloodgrass, I thought it was beautiful, and I realized that stuff was like super invasive. So I looked for alternatives, and I got some alternatives. So it'd be really nice to just provide people with tools and saying, like, here's a lot of common things that people really like to see, but they're actually invasive. And here's, like, on the next column, like, you like burning bush. Well, here's something that looks similar to that and is not invasive. Just give people, like, tools to be able to get done what they want to get done without banning it.
So it sounds like you're not actually making a recommendation to the town council, but you're actually you're inviting the idea of creating, like, a resource page on our website, maybe, for people to learn.
Yeah, taking a position, making a recommendation, and providing a resource.
So what would the recommendation to the town council, that we have a resource page on our website, or?
The town council could possibly, I don't know who does this. I'm sorry, I'm new to all this, but somebody needs to just put out something for the residents of Somerset saying that this is a bad practice to plant invasive things. So whether that's us that does it, or whether it's the council that does it, I don't know. If it's the council, then we can recommend that the council does it. If it's us, then we can put that recommendation together ourselves for the residents.
Okay, Patty?
We've tried this in the past with education forums, and also putting it in what you now call the sustainability corner, in the town journal. And I think you're right. There's many newer residents that weren't there when we've done this in years past, and we need to do it probably on an annual basis, and not just say not to plant these things, but even, if you have them, consider getting rid of them. And provide alternatives. But I'm not going to write it, just to tell you, I don't have time to write it right now.
You're talking about writing an article in Sustainability Corner?
Yeah. That can easily, and with giving references to, there's so many online resources now, including conservation landscaping, the Montgomery County Conservation Landscaping, which gives you, native plant alternatives to so many of these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's a lot of links.
So you're not up for writing an article about it since you're the most,
I know.
maybe you can then like pass me on some resources so that at
I
least
could definitely
I-
pass out resources.
I can write that article.
Yeah.
Kumar, did you have a comment about this? Kumar?
Yeah, thanks, Barton. Just real quick, I mean, one suggestion I do have is, do this in addition to, or instead of, if you want a sort of interim step, mandate planting of native plants only for any new construction. I mean, often when builders come in and build a new house, they just completely redo the landscaping.
Mhm.
And there have been times when as part of a permit application, the council requires consulting some kind of horticultural expert or whatever for water loving plants.
Good
And
idea.
so another twist on that could be that for all new construction, you require only native plants be planted. And it might not last forever because the new owner comes in and plants whatever they want, but to
Right.
begin with,
It's a good
you can
point.
mandate
Pat-
that in the code.
Yeah, Patty,
But no, even conservation landscaping isn't 100% native. So you have to be careful how you word it. And only
But
has
yeah,
to be
Right.
The other point is that not all native plants are equally good. In other words, I've got hydrangeas, which are technically native plants, but they're absolutely no use to pollinators because they're so hybridized. They're just no pollinator would go near them.
other cultivars. Yeah.
So
It's non-invasive, what we're talking about, like non-invasive plants.
I think the
Right.
non-invasive is the issue.
Yeah.
That's the real
But
issue.
natives are good, certainly.
So I'm getting a feeling, Ralph.
I'd like to share a story. About 10 years ago, we had the derecho. Everybody remember that? It was when all the trees in the town blew down at once. And the town, for a month or so, said you can put your trees, put your wood, put everything out by the road, and you don't have to put it in small bags, or you don't have to put it in 4-foot lengths. I use that as an opportunity. I put millions of pieces of bamboo out by the road, full length. I didn't have to cut them up, and it was very helpful. The trucks came through and ran them through their machine. 5 years ago, I was cutting out bamboo from an entire lawn, and it took me all summer long to cut it up into 4-foot lengths and put it in cans and haul the cans out to the road. It seems to me, I think about this often, that, gee, wouldn't it be nice if I could cut, I've got bamboo between my house and Trent Street. I want to go out and cut every bit of it down.
Mhm.
And I would love to be able to just put it beside the road and have a shredder come through and shred it. But I know that, that what I have to do is cut it in the lengths and put it in cans and everything else. Wouldn't it be nice if once a year or once ever, the town would just say, hey, you cut down natives or you cut down bamboo and put it out by the road. You don't have to cut it up. We will take care of it.
Right. Well, keep in mind also, when you cut down bamboo, that doesn't get rid of the bamboo because
But it sure helps. No, it doesn't. I've got that.
it grows
I've
back more
broken up and
aggressively.
everything else. But you
You
have
gotta
to start
dig it
by
up.
cutting it down.
You got to dig it up to get
I
rid of it.
know.
So
But you have to start by cutting it. It
Well,
would
yeah.
be awfully nice if we could just sort of get rid of some of that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I feel like my feeling is that the motion we could consider is to require, since we don't want to do any banning, we try to stay away from banning stuff, that we just require all new homes, new construction, to use only to never use not invasive species. It's pretty simple.
Yep.
Yogesh, do you want to make that motion?
Okay. What do I do? I just say
It
motion
just sort
to,
of states, we motion that the Environment Committee recommends to the town council to, you know, ask all new construction contractors and residents to not plant invasive species.
What he said. Right.
Okay, what I
That
said.
was good. Right.
Then we
Okay.
need a list of invasive species, which you
Yeah.
could say is in the Montgomery County Weed Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have a second to that?
A second.
Okay. Okay. And all in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, I got everybody. Unanimous again. Okay, so here we are. It's 9:12. We started at 8:12 because we started late. We have a bunch of other stuff to do, but I think we should call it a night because everyone needs a little break before going to sleep.
Mhm.
Would you all agree with that? Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, so listen, thank you so much. I think our conversations continue to be very fruitful and interesting, and it's great to see everybody. I don't know do we want to meet in person ever again at the town hall? We have that facility waiting for us. Isn't that correct, Robin?
Mm-hmm. It's there.
Do you guys want to meet
Well,
together?
A couple of committees have met there, although they haven't actually consistently met there. Zoom is just so much easier.
What do you guys feel? You want to just continue it as is? I mean,
This is easy. I hit the leave button and I go straight to bed. You know? I don't have to walk in the dark, you know?
yeah, you're so close to the town hall. I don't want to hear any complaints out of you. Okay, we'll continue as is, but think about it in the future that we should at some point be normal people again, but whatever. I get it. Good night,
night.
everybody.
Thank you very much, Barton.
Good night.
Thank you.